Hey everybody, this is James Gorey with the Banana Republican. Today let's talk about what's going on in Iran, and more importantly, kind of what's the new developments of the Iran war and what does it mean for the rest of the world. First, um, does or did Iran have nuclear weapons? It's been going viral. The notion that Carolyn Leavitt, the presidential spokesman for Trump, saying that we can never again let Iran have nuclear weapons. Words to that effect. The implication was that they had nuclear weapons. Uh, Now, we also know that the Trump administration has said they're going after their nuclear refined uranium, whatever it might be, refined nuclear materials. So that implies that they do have enough. So it's interesting to kind of parse that language and understand or ask the question, gee, did Iran actually have nuclear weapons? And were those missiles obviously the vehicles to get them? And if they did, why didn't they use them? That's another question. So I don't know if they have or not. You can read into it from what people say. I think they probably did. I'd say at least it's a 50-50 shot. And I think it was a matter of can they get these missiles put together quick enough and reliable to do what they need to do. I'm not so sure that the Iranian missile guidance is that fantastic. I've read different articles on that, but it's interesting to note that maybe that's why the war happened. There are a lot of reasons for the war, not just one, many reasons, which we'll go into a little bit, but in another post probably. But in this cast, let's look at the Iran war and the state of what's going on in the world. So breaking it down, Iran is a major energy supplier to China. And through the Straits of Hormuz, which is Iran's part is on this side and the Arabian part's on that side, it's a narrow strait. 20% of the world's oil and energy goes through the Straits of Hormuz. That's a lot. And a lot of that goes to China. So, um, on the one hand, the whole Venezuela thing has limited China's access to Venezuelan oil. And now the Iran war has limited China's access to Iranian oil, which puts China in an energy bind. Now, China has a lot of reserves. One of the reasons is we gave them a lot of our reserves. Joe Biden did last when he was president, or he was acting president, whatever he was doing in the White House. I don't know if he ever made it to the White House, but yeah, we gave them a lot of our reserves. So China has a lot of gas reserves, and they've ceased selling any kind of reserves abroad. So they're facing an energy issue, an energy challenge. Now, on the flip side of that, Russia is a major energy supplier to Europe. And Europe has made that announcement that they'll get down to zero imports from Russian natural gas, which is basically feeds their economies, um, by the end of this year. That's probably not going to happen. I don't see how that can happen. At the same time, Russia is now funneling a lot of their energy to Asia, probably to make up for the gap that Iranian oil not flowing is creating. So it looks like Russia's kind of filling that gap a little bit, probably make a little money on the side. Who knows? But you see what's happening now is that there's these reverberating impacts on these energy sources and supplies. It's fairly predictable, obviously, but it needs to be pointed out that that impacts Europe and Europe's ability to run their economy. So whether it be the European Union or Central Europe or even Ukraine for that matter, um, they may not have the energy access that they enjoy right now. I think it's not unrealistic to think that to say that the Europeans won't cut their liquid natural gas imports from Russia. On the flip side, Russia could say, look, you stop supporting Iran or the U.S. in the Iran war, or we'll turn off the natural gas. That could happen. So, on the one hand, it's the Trump kind of policy against China by squeezing their energy supplies, and that's what he's doing. And that's another thing. It's not just Chinese economy; it's Chinese AI. Um, you may agree or disagree with that, but I think it's a valid point. AI takes a tremendous amount of energy. China is building as many coal-fired power plants as they can. Despite being the leader in green energy, China knows it's got a huge energy consumption challenge to overcome, and it's going to be done by coal and oil, natural gas, and some renewable. Um, Russia, on the other hand, knows that it has a power position with regard to Ukraine. I think Russia can say to the Europeans, look, you force Ukraine to agree to our conditions, demilitarize, neutral, become neutral, denazify, um, no foreign troops on our soil, and then and probably Zelensky not running again. I think there's an article in on Zero Hedge talks about this. I know there is actually. I read it recently. So there's a there's a there's a huge dynamic in play here. Who can last? And the fact is that the European economy has to have LNG, has to have energy. And I don't know if Israel can sell them enough, produce enough, deliver enough. I don't know if the U.S. can deliver enough. We're a major energy provider, liquid natural gas and oil. So now you're looking at shipping and pipelines from and shipping out of Israel, probably Egypt, and frozen liquefied natural gas to Europe. So you're looking at potential supply chain disruptions on both sides, and you're looking at a question of whether Israel and the U.S. can make up the difference if the Russians say, yeah, we're cutting this off today. So uh, it's getting much more complicated than simply can we stop the Iranians and decapitate them and get rid of their nuclear ambitions and regime change. A lot of complexity. And this war, the implications of this war are spreading. And interestingly enough, Iran felt the need to bomb a Bahrain desal plant, which is water. The Israelis are great at desalination. They sell these plants throughout the region. And why wouldn't they? Those areas need water badly. So when you destroy a country's, you start attacking their desal plants, you're going for the water, going for the jugular. And that's what's going on there as well. So there's energy, there's water, and there's replacements that may come into play. There's deprivations and denials which come into play. So we're seeing a huge kaleidoscope of factors that went beyond the initial scope of decapitating Iran, which they've done. Um, they have a new leader of Iran, but they haven't discussed who he is. But there is someone there. Yeah, there has to be. And so, from a kind of a global impact, things are getting more complicated, more complex, more vital interests are becoming at stake and becoming threatened, are being threatened. And so uh, the the scope of this war, the scope of this war is widening by the day, and that was certainly foreseeable. It may not have been expected, but it's certainly foreseeable. I think it's if the Trump administration was imagining that the rest of the region, or Russia and China and other folks, other allies of Iran wouldn't react, um, they certainly made this mistake. Or if they thought they could manage those reactions, maybe that's where they are. I don't know. Hard to say. We'll have to see. But there are supply replacements through probably Israel and the U.S. for liquid natural gas for Europe, but those involve supply chains that are very vulnerable. And we haven't even gotten into disruptions on the internet um, through cable severance, severing cables on the ocean floor and so forth. There's all that kind of stuff too. So there's oil, natural gas. There's a Ukraine war. How can Russia get their way there um, quickly? Russia would like to be done with that, and it's going to have to be giving up territory, giving up giving up foreign influence, certainly demilitarizing, and certainly being politically neutral, and probably again, as I said, Zelensky out of power. A lot of those things are probably too high of a bar for the Ukrainians, for Zelensky, obviously, and probably for Europe. Although Europe, when it comes down, when push comes to shove, if they go through a winter, if they hit October and there's no natural gas flowing, they'll cut a deal. They may cut a deal before then. So we'll see. Lots going on, lots to think about. I don't have all the answers, obviously, but I'm looking at some questions that really are going to be difficult to figure out where they're going to land. But if you like this kind of content, like this kind of speculative introspection and analysis, give me a like and a share or subscribe. All three. And certainly comment if you will, if you like to. All right. See you next time.